Welcome to me. I shouldn't get stuck at the beginning there. No, welcome to Awakening in the Modern World with Hillary Raven Porter. That is me. I am on today to talk about the red string. The red string. What is the red string? So you might have seen people wearing a red string. Apparently, I didn't know this when I was doing some research today. I had no idea that it became a thing a couple years ago, I guess, with famous people. Who knew? But that is not why I use it or why I suggest it. So I realized that I suggest this a lot to my clients and I explain it to them, but realize how much of a tool this can be for you as you're dealing with the spirit realms, right? So, the red string. Talk a little bit here about how it came into my life. We'll talk a little bit about why it's useful. And then I did a little research and I found out stuff that I didn't even know. Um, what is the red string first? So the red string is, excuse me, the red string is a piece of something that is red, often string, wool. Hi, kitty. She's coming in to join the conversation, Rosie. Wool. I've even had it down to clients that were just like, I don't have any of those things, and even suggested using red hair tie to make do until the time that they could get some red string or thread or something to make a bracelet for their left wrist. But why was I suggesting these things to my clients? So I'm suggesting these things to my clients because they need some protection or they need protection. They need protection. I just said protection. It's protection, but also a tether when they're traveling in the other realms. It's also protection for when you're here. So it's to ward off if they're, as you're, I just get so excited. As you are becoming more and more aware of the other realms, they are also becoming aware of you. So as your light is growing from your vibration shifting to a finer vibration, you are becoming more visible to the other realms. Now, this doesn't mean just the pleasant entities or the entities that are here to do you well. It also is for all the entities that really you have no play in their existence, and also the ones that are like, oh, I see your light shining. I'm going to come and manipulate or utilize you for my purposes. And that's a whole nother conversation about ways to help ward those off. But this is one of those ways to offer protection. Now, when we're astral traveling, we really need to protect ourselves because our vessel, our vehicle, our body, is no longer full with our energetic self, with our spirit, with our soul, however you want to see it, in the same way, because we are traveling elsewhere. So we are still connected, we still have a tether, but it's like any map or any road trip or any journey that you go on. If you go on in the woods, you want to make sure you have your compass, you want to make sure you have your food, you want to make sure you have your clothing, all the things that you're going to need for the journey, especially the map, so you know how to get back. Well, one of those ways to get back and to make sure you get back is this tether, this red string, which also serves as a protection in the other realms. I find it tends to travel with me into the other realms when I am needing it. I was first introduced to this from my mentor. I've been partially trained in the Black Heart Fairy Witch tradition, and this was one of the things in the beginning because I was astral traveling so much. At the time, it was so much for me. Every night is now a lucid dream astral travel, but then it was about 50% of the time, but I had no idea what was happening. I couldn't contain or control the dream space in a way that felt viable. I felt exhausted because I was traveling in another space, so my body was resting, but my spirit and my mind and all of those other realms were not. So when my spirit came back in, I was tired. Plus, because my light was shining so brilliantly, there was some beings that decided to come towards me and impersonate other beings that were helpful in my life and try to influence situations in ways that were not beneficial for me and were beneficial for them. So this was suggested to me to wear this red string around my wrist. You can see I'm not wearing one right now. I haven't had a need for it over the last little while. So I'm a firm believer in utilizing these tools as you feel they are needed for you. So if this is calling to you, wear one. If you notice that these things that we talk about are happening to you and you're finding relief, wear one, wear the red. But if all of a sudden you're like, oh, this doesn't feel like I need it anymore, you can try taking it off. Some people leave it on until it falls off naturally, seeing that as a sign, as an indication that it is no longer needed when it falls off on its own. But this is up to you. There's no hard and fast rule for this, okay? That's one thing I like to stress often is listen to your intuition, listen to your body, listen to your heart as to when things from food to rituals to tinctures to any of the practices that you have, if they are no longer feeling like they fit where you are, then they probably don't. You are growing, shifting, moving. And what was good for you 2 years ago may not be good for you now. What was good for you yesterday may feel like it's different now based on who you are now in this moment. Okay? So, red string. It's a form, now let's see if I can pronounce this appropriately, of apotropaic. Apotropaic. It's a crazy word. Magic. So apotropaic magic is a form of magic that is intended to turn away harm, the evil eye, things like that. It is also referring to things that could have come from a vague superstition. We're going to do this because of that superstition or traditions. It can also be the things like representative, like when we have amulets or good luck charms or a gesture that we do, like knock on wood. Those are all forms of apotropaic magic. The Greeks, one of their magic forms is they would offer offerings, offer offerings to, they called them averting gods. Heroes, there's another word that I can't pronounce, Chthonic, chthonic deities and heroes that would then ward off the evil for them and protect them, right? So we also have the color. The color is red. Red, in the different ones that we're going to talk about, symbolize things such as courage, bravery, blood, which is nourishing and full of life, and then also warding off the evil eye. So some of the belief systems, let's talk about these guys. So one of them is Kabbalah. Right? This is also something that comes up within the esoteric acupuncture that I practice, like the Tree of Life and different sacred geometry patterns. So the Kabbalah used it as a talisman against the evil eye, which we talked about. So they were saying it was removing the unwanted energy, which also made way. So it was doing two things. Evil eye, right? And you're blocking it. And it was also removing the evil energy that is attached to you in you and like binding it in this and then allowing in that new energy, right? They used, what they would do is they would knot, it was commonly wool, red wool, and they would knot it 7 times while saying a bracelet prayer. And this was representative of the original way that this was made through Rachel's tomb. So Rachel was the mother of Joseph, and she is considered a protector of children. She died in childbirth with her second child. So what they did is they wrapped her tomb 7 times with this big piece of wool, right? And that imbued this wool with this protection and this safety. And then they took it off and they snipped it into bracelet-sized pieces, and then you tie it on. So the 7 knots that they do now represent the 7 times it was wrapped around, because not everybody could get to the tomb to get this wool infused with the energy in the area of Rachel. Right? So that's why they do the 7 knots. Then we have Hinduism. So Hinduism, they called it Kalava, and they wore the right on men and the left on women. And then you would swap it if they were unmarried. Okay? So right on married men, left on married women. But if you were an unmarried woman, it would go on your right, unmarried man would go on your left. For them, for the Hinduism, it representative of purity. It's a color of the divine. We have the bravery and the generosity. And at the temples during ceremonies, they would be offered to show unity within the divinations, within the divine practices. Then we have Buddhism. So Buddhism, it's representative of the life force, the compassion, and also it rules the tongue. So this was a reminder to be compassionate. Every time you looked, be compassionate, and to watch your tongue. Because the tongue and the words we speak can be more harmful than even a sword. They can cut deeper, right? In ceremonies, it'd be blessed by the Lama, and then these would be given to the practitioners and to the students, or when they took their vows of Buddhism. So for Christianity, so here we go. It was from Genesis 38, and it was a representation of redemption, the fire, the blood, the Pentecost, and there's a reference to it being, worn off misfortune. So what do we know about the red string here? We know that it's been used through history from way back, early 1900s, right? Which is quite a while ago, as a reminder of connections to loved ones, of purity, of devotion. And then the one that we're mainly referring to is the one of protection, of safety, and then of a tether, right? We talked about if it breaks. And this is something to remember, that this is what you put as well on it. There's tons of rituals out there. We can create our own rituals, which is something I'll talk about later, and how to do that. And this is all information, and then you take this information and you make it your own. You take this information and you digest it. Maybe this will feel absolutely perfect to you. Maybe you'll be like, I don't know about that. This doesn't seem legit. But you know what? A lot of things within the spirit realm go back to one of my favorite phrases. Sometimes your only available mode of transportation is a leap of faith, because we can't explain these things, but we know them to be true. That knowing within our body that it is true, and then it is right for you. So if it breaks, how do you feel about that? Do you think that it's time to take it off? Do you feel that it's okay to cut it? Whatever feels right for you within that, that is your right. Your right. Okay. I've reaped major benefits from this. It helped me through a really intense time as I was not first diving in. My dive into the spirit realm has been for many, many moons, basically from when I was little. Very, very little. I remember things from when I was 2. Again, that's another story for another time. But when I was broken open and things really started flooding in when I was in my 30s, early 30s, this was really helpful. And it created a sense of space and that safety I needed so that I could actually do the other work that was required. Because if your nervous system is so high, as the stronger current is running through you, and you're a beacon for all these other energetic things to come in, there is no breath, there is no reprieve to do the other work, because all you are doing is being in survival mode. Spiritual survival mode. That's all it is. Okay, that is all for me today. I am sending you so much love and stardust. If you'd like to watch my videos, you can always head on over to YouTube. I post many of them over there as well. It's just Hillary Raven Porter, just the same as my name here on Instagram, with no dots in the middle. And you can see the different ones that I've posted there. I welcome your questions. If there's anything you would also like me to talk about, to come on and talk about, please let me know, and I'll do my best to offer that for you, to give you some more tools as you're awakening in the modern world. Okay, so much love and stardust. Have yourself an excellent night. Bye for now.